Okay, Chris speaks back. Brandon Mosley for our BCS State of Alabama podcast, and we got Ken McFeeters here with us today, who is well, Ken, you just go ahead and tell us what's going on with your situation now in the governor's race.
Okay, I'm going to get this right. Put on the glasses. Okay, I did a contest to the nomination, and you file it within 24 hours after the Republican Party nominates their candidate. If you were on the ticket, you can do a contest to the nomination. And shockingly enough, it was accepted, and they could just dismiss it right off. It says, if, however, the contest is facially valid, that means at face value, facially valid, and could alter the outcome of the primary election. And this is according to the ALGOP's pre-hearing provisions. Let's see. And then the county executive committee or state executive committee shall appoint a hearing officer in accordance with section C below and set a date for a final hearing to commence. So this could, on face value, change the outcome of the election. And I think it's interesting that they took a look at it this time. Back when they closed the primary, and I made a primary challenge for the first time in Alabama history, the ALGOP's steering committee was not, or the executive committee, I guess, was not allowed to look at the challenges. Historically, they'd always get all the challenges, take a look at them, said, okay, and then they'll decide what we're going to do with the challenges. Prior to when they met, the day before, and it was put on the internet the day before, they got a notification from an attorney that said these four stacks, one are facially defective. That's the one my challenge was put in. One you cannot look at because they're frivolous. These ones you can look at, and these ones we're just going to go ahead and kick them off the ballot because they did something so bad that you don't even have to look at them. We're just kicking them off the ballot. Someone usurped their authority, and took the authority of the steering executive committee and took it away. Wouldn't even let them look at the challenges. And I think that's why there's enough folks on the steering committee that have been looking around and it's like, guys, you were involved in this primary from day one, and the Republicans don't get involved in primaries. They've been supporting my opponent or my prior opponent. It's no longer an opponent. They were supporting him from day one, and it's never happened in the Republican Party. We're the small guys, we don't get involved in primaries, and they did. And someone usurped the authority, had enough power to usurp the authority of the executive committee and take their ability to look at challenges away. That's why I think that we got this meeting, because I'm shocked, but it's a great day.
I have talked with members of the executive committee, and they said because of the number of challenges they had to deal with, that they delegated the primary look at these things to their council. And based on council recommendations, they made the decisions that, hey, this has to come before the full 21 member committee. These are frivolous or defective, and there's nothing here. And in like the case of Dean Odle, where it's like, yeah, we know he's guilty. The evidence is overwhelming that he did break the sore loser rule. So we are kicking him off. But
So is this the first? Is
their
this the
power
first?
wasn't usurped as much as they told legal counsel, hey, make this easy on us, is what I'm being told.
Now, is this the first time they've ever had a ballot challenge, or anyone
They've had
challenging them?
there's ballot challenges have happened many a time. Probably the most famous is when they kicked Harry Ann Smith, who was an incumbent state senator then, off of the Republican primary ballot because she had endorsed a Democrat. She'd ran for Congress 2 years previously and lost the Republican primary and then endorsed the Democrat rather than her, primary opponent, Representative Jay Love. So the steering committee now voted on that, and decided that Harry Ann had violated the "you shall not support a Democrat" rule, and so they kicked Harry Ann off. But yeah, there have
Well, I
been
mean, why
primary
haven't they ever
challenges.
had to get an attorney to do that before? Why this year? Why all of a
I
sudden
mean,
this year?
they've had legal counsel in the past. We actually have mutual friends that used to be the legal counsel.
Oh
Now
yeah,
they're using Balch and Bingham instead of, some of the attorneys that we personally know who used to do it in the past.
right. But
Greg
why?
Cook,
But
for
why this
example,
year? Why
was the
never in the
counsel for
past?
the longest time, but he got elected to the Alabama Supreme Court. So obviously,
Right.
he can't be their attorney now.
But why this year? Why did they have so many this year and they never have in the past? I just think it's kind of odd.
Well, and there were new rules. It's like Doc Mancuso was kicked off the ballot because he had run as a Democrat in 2002. Um,
But you're avoiding the
it,
question. Why were there so many this year that it just
well, that's what I'm
overwhelmed them?
saying is they changed the rules, making it, Mancuso would have been an automatic Republican. I mean, he hadn't been a Democrat in 20 years. And because he was on the ballot as a Democrat, um, before some of the voters were even alive, um, the executive committee thought that under the new rules they have for kicking people that aren't purely Republican off of the ballot, that his case applied. Jenna Ross got kicked off the ballot because she voted in a Democrat primary like 6 years ago. Again, these are people that in the past there would be no grounds to throw them off the ballot, but we made it more restrictive. Now, your issue was always an issue, as far as if you're a resident of the state, but there were so
Exactly.
many challenges this year because the executive committee has voted in rules making it harder for party switchers and people who, split from party to party or run independent campaigns or this kind of stuff to run as Republicans. So it created a deal where there were like 2 dozen challenges, and a lot of them serious.
But it wouldn't take long to 2 dozen challenges. They could get through it in
Well, you
fairly
have
short
hearings
order.
for all of them, and you give both sides a chance to bring witnesses and deal. Yeah, 24 of them, yeah, is not the easiest deal to do.
But did the
I
law
don't know
firm
the
actually
exact
do that?
number, it's an
Did,
estimate.
did the law firm give both sides an opportunity to talk, or they just declared arbitrarily? I
The
mean,
law firm had
that's
them, and like in your case, obviously you had no chance to talk. The law firm just decided it was frivolous,
no. They said it was facially defective, not frivolous.
facially defective because you
That
did
was
not include
accepted.
evidence, even though evidence is not required under the challenge rules. But
And then we heard the young guy, y'all did a podcast with him from the University of Alabama, saying the reason they dismissed my challenge was because I didn't put any evidence. When on the
yeah,
challenge
which
form,
isn't
it
required.
actually says you don't have to put the evidence. You can save it for the hearing. Never got a hearing. Why? There was some strange things
There were
going
some
on.
issues this year that I kind of think, you know,
And I
whoever is
love the
going to be
party. Don't get
counsel
me
for them
wrong.
next time and the steering committee need to work out.
I love the party. Became a Republican because I honestly believe Republicans are the good guys. When I turned 18 years old, I looked down at Montgomery and saw how corrupt Montgomery was and was controlled top to bottom by the Democrats. It's like, I'm not that. I'm a Republican. And Republicans don't get involved in primaries, but I think they've changed that. If you look at this year, especially the gubernatorial race, we don't get involved in primaries. The Democrats do that. We're the good guys. We're the party of the people. We don't do backdoor deals. And I think there's enough good people in the Republican Party and on the Republican steering committee left that, and hopefully they'll do the right thing down in 2 weeks at Balch Bingham's firm. And I also, I mean, Balch Bingham's probably the most powerful, respected, prestigious law firm in Alabama, bar none. I mean, and they're representing the ALGOP. And I reached out to their lawyer today and I said, you guys are impartial on this, correct? You're not taking sides because we've got to deal with Tommy Tuberville's attorney. So Balch Bingham should be impartial. They should only want the truth to come out for the ALGOP to prove the residency and not take a side, not work, trying to, prove a candidate doesn't have to show his residency. And so hopefully I'm only going to have to deal with the other guy we both know who's representing Tuberville, Burt Jordan. And Burt Jordan's a brilliant man. And it's going to be interesting. I'm not that smart. I'm not that politically connected. But taking on Burt Jordan and Balch Bingham is overwhelming. So I'll have to hopefully just deal with Burt Jordan.
What kind of evidence are you going to present, Ken?
On my complaint, we did a bunch of it. And there's so much more coming out every single day. I get to subpoena 5 people. I get to have 100 interrogatories as long as it is allowed to move forward, and it should fairly. I want to subpoena his driving records. Supposedly, if you look at ALDOT, you have to surrender a driver's license when you get an Alabama driver's license. And recently it came out in the media that he had a Florida driver's license to 2023. I want to subpoena his wife. I want to get her to sit and ask that she, with a straight face, has shared for the last 7 years a one-bedroom house one bathroom house in Auburn with her adult son, husband, and house guests, and do that with a straight face. And more power to her. She's a wife of an ex-SEC coach and the wife of a sitting senator. She's very, very successful family, and more power to her. But women like that, or any successful man or woman, they're not going to share a one bathroom house with a grown man husband and a grown man son and their house guests. So I want to see her do that with a straight face. I also want to subpoena the records showing hotel reservations in Auburn. There's some talk about, and it's public, whatever, that when he's in Auburn, he's not staying at his house, he's staying in hotels. Well, why would you stay in a hotel in the city you supposedly live in? And the flight logs clearly show that he's flying to and from the beach. So hopefully the truth's going to come out, and the little guy's going to win, because there's some things behind the scenes here, and that are not. Some of the bad guys have taken over the Republican Party, or trying to. There's enough good guys, and especially the voters. There's enough good guys that are going to say, no, can't do that. We got to tell the truth. Any more questions?
Brandon, you there?
You talk
think he's
about
breaking.
business cover, but the law does not require that Mrs. Tuberville reside in Alabama. She is not a candidate. I could have a wife in Colorado or a wife in the Philippines, and it doesn't necessarily prove that I'm an Alabama resident.
Okay, well, if she's not an Alabama resident and she's in voting in Alabama, is that voter fraud?
Did you get that, Ken, or we had technical problems?
No, I heard you. If she's not a resident of Alabama and she's been voting Alabama and she's claimed Alabama as her homestead, does that mean she's guilty of voter fraud? And, they claim supposedly in 2018, the homestead in Florida, and in November of 2018, they both voted in Florida, but they claimed the homestead in Alabama. November of that year, they both voted in Florida. There's so many discrepancies on this so it's got to be looked at. And that's why I'm so happy we're going to actually have a hearing on this and get to the bottom of it.
So how many people, is it the whole executive committee that will vote on it, or just Stathagen?
Stathagen is chairing it. So I think, it's my understanding, I'm not an attorney, I think it's just going to be like kind of a court hearing, and then he'll be the one that makes the decision. That's my understanding.
So
you
there
know,
will be
and
the executive committee and not an appointed hearing officer.
so the executive committee will hear it. So they'll kind of be like the jury.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
No, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Have they just appointed a hearing officer, sort of like a court appointed mediator, to hear the issues versus, the steering committee sitting as a jury?
I don't know how that's going to work. It's going to be
Uh,
interesting to see.
so if they don't rule in your favor, there's no recourse for you after that.
No, then it's over. Then I'm sure the Democrats will probably do something. I've heard there's talk that there's two veterans that are filing a lawsuit. That's why I'm so glad the hearing's happening. Also, this issue's not going to go away, and it'll go away for me at the end of it. But the issue's not going to go away. It's going to be a cloud hanging over his if he wins or whatever, and then someone will sue after he's elected. I mean, it's not going to go away.
I was told this morning that come August 14th, whenever they certify him if they certify him as the nominee, then Doug Jones is going to file his lawsuits then.
That's what I've heard as well, because then it actually is a state issue, not just a party issue. Right now, it's a party issue until August. It's just a party issue. And that's why the party should make a decision right now whether to put this to bed and put it to bed before it goes to the courts, because some of the courts aren't so friendly.
85% of Republican primary voters have told the party that, yeah, well, there's an issue here, but we're really not concerned about it, and we want Tommy Tuberville as our next governor. What is your response to that?
Well, one, we don't live in a democracy. Our founding fathers did that on purpose. We live in a constitutional republic where it doesn't matter what 99.9% of the people want, that it's going to protect the rights of the 0.01 or 0.1. And the Constitution says you have to live in Alabama for the last 7 years to run for governor or lieutenant governor. So, I hate to say it, but we live in I don't hate to say it, I'm proud of it. And I don't think my former opponent knows that, but we live in a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And you said 85% of the voters that voted, but almost 80 some odd percent, 85% of the people have given up on voting because they don't trust the parties, either of them anymore. And that's a shame. And the reason is shenanigans like this, where, this should have been resolved months and months and months and months ago. A sitting senator or a former state senator, a U.S. senator rather, and Attorney General Sessions brought this up back when he ran for when Tuberville ran for the U.S. Senate. Completely different set of rules back then, because you only have to be a resident for 1 day to become a U.S. senator from Alabama, but different set of rules constitutionally to run for governor. So it doesn't matter if he got 199% of the votes. He's not constitutionally able to run if he doesn't live in Alabama. And that's why I'm so happy they're actually going to address this issue now.
Do you have hope that they'll rule in your favor?
If they actually let me talk and don't shut me down procedurally, they'll have to rule in my favor. There's overwhelming, and it's already out there. The flight logs, the driver's licenses, voting in Florida after you claim, quote unquote, your homestead, and using a house of convenience as your homestead. I was talking to a reporter this morning, and he knows all the places that Tuberville gets interviewed. He goes, if you watch every national news when he's not in Washington, D.C., and they're recording him and they're interviewing him, it's always in his office at Santa Rosa Beach in his house. So it's kind of like, I don't blame him. If I had a $6 million beach house a $6 million house on the beach, I would be living in it when I wasn't in Washington, D.C. I would not be living in a little one-bedroom garden home in Auburn or one-bathroom garden home in Auburn. Wouldn't do it. It's idiotic. You can't tell me that with a straight face. And then again, is there voter fraud involved? When this all goes down, if you've claimed homestead and you're saying you claimed homestead in Alabama, but voting in Florida, That's against the law. So this is going to open a can of worms he does not want opened. And like I said,
Well,
unless they do something procedurally, and they've got the best lawyers in the world, but hopefully Ball Bingham, I can get them to realize, hey, they're on both sides, not working on Tuberville's side. Hopefully they'll only want what the truth is. So we'll find out.
assuming that the executive committee or the hearing officer, whoever's making this determination, decides that yes, Ken is right, and yes, Tommy Tuberville does not meet the qualifications to be on the ballot. I think that's unlikely, but if they did make that assumption, where in the law or the rules would you get the idea that they would then make you the appointed Republican candidate if the steering committee could pick me or Christopher or Will Ainsworth as just anybody who's a Republican who's willing instead of Ken McFeeters.
That would be a really bad look for him. They should have taken him off back when they closed the primary. He should have been taken off then. If they've had a candidate that should not have been on the election, there were two other candidates that ran. Whoever comes in second and beat the only other candidate on the ticket, and I beat Will, they're the new nominee. I mean, no one else beat me that was legally able to run, constitutionally able to run. So I won the ticket. I'm the nominee. And that's common sense. And if they try to put, one of their own guys or do a special election, I mean, I think that's going to be a very bad look because they're the reason no one's challenged him. If this was anybody else but Tuberville, we would be crucified by the ALGOP and must prove that where we live. Why the pass for him? Why are they getting involved in primaries? He should have never been on the ballot. If in fact that he doesn't live in Alabama, that hopefully we're going to prove in 2 weeks, he should not have been on the ballot. And if they're going to get to name the replacement, no, that would be a very bad look in my opinion.
Are you not concerned if you became the nominee, there would be people that would refuse to vote for you in the general election and would give Doug Jones the victory?
I think Tuberville is hurting the Republican Party a lot more than I am. I'm just trying to tell the truth. All the shenanigans, the party favorites in primaries, not forthcoming with where you live, only now releasing tax documents. Why now? Why not, months ago? Why he's the one hurting the party. I'm for the party. I'm for the little guys. I'm for the backbone of the party, not the elites of the party. He's for the elites of the party, and that's hurting the party and helping Doug Jones, who's even worse. I mean, God, Doug is horrible. And I've always said, Malcolm X said the worst thing for the black man in America is a white liberal. And then, but Doug Jones is a Mountain Brook white liberal. And that's horrific. That's disgusting. So, hopefully I can get a lot of the votes from his base. I know African-American males are starting to vote more conservatively and getting away from the white liberals that have taken over the party. And that's the thing. The elites in their party are the white liberals, and they're not a good group of people. And that's what he's the lead of the white liberals. And they're the ones killing the school systems. They're the ones killing, the transgender agenda and all that. That's not Alabama. But I think anyone could beat Doug Jones. You're breaking up again?
2014. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
In 2014, Robert Bentley, the party chose Robert Bentley to be their nominee. I mean, he was an elderly man, and let's say, thank God it didn't happen, but he could have had a heart attack and died. Would you have expected the steering committee if they had to appoint a candidate to have appointed Stacey George or the most qualified Republican available, just because Stacey
Um,
was number two
co-
in the primary.
completely different set of circumstances. If they were hiding a candidate, and he was unconstitutionally able to run for the office, different story. And if he had a heart attack, different story. This is some folks in the party helping a candidate in the primary, hiding the fact of where his residence is and not making him come clean on his residency until after he's elected their nominee. Completely set up circumstances. So that's not a good comparison.
Will they rule the same day after they hear this?
I don't I mean, they may just kick it out, who knows? But you're supposed to get, from my understanding and reading their rules, I'm supposed to get 5 subpoenas, and then I get it to, I think, like 2 days to depose them. I get 100 interrogatories. I get to subpoena up a lot of records. Like I said, I want to subpoena the hotel records when he's in Auburn. If he's actually living in Auburn, why would he need hotels in Auburn? Is he staying in hotels in Auburn? Does that mean he's not staying in his house that he says he is staying in? The flight logs, the driver's licenses, and go over I've been told, I haven't seen it yet, that he paid 5 years taxes, and the 2 prior to that, he had to go back and pay. And that's all up in the air. I want to find out when he actually wrote the checks for those, not when he filed or whatever, when he actually wrote the checks for those. There's a lot of stuff that needs to come out, and hopefully they'll be forthcoming and want what's best for the party, not what's best for Tommy Tuberville, what's best for the party and the individuals and the voters, and treating both candidates that are former candidates fairly. So, I mean, we have to do what's right. The truth needs to come out. And this is another thing. I mean, when you bring, I love our Constitution is a wonderful thing, and it's set up the court system. Somehow our court system's been usurped by the Bar Association and lawyers. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of justice in our judicial system, and it doesn't seem to be about right and wrong anymore. It seems to be who's got the most powerful lawyer and how much money you're willing to spend. That's who the winner's going to be. And I wanted to get back to what's right and wrong and what's truthful and honest. And so hopefully this thing will be transparent, above board, about finding the truth. And that would be wonderful. And then that takes the lawyers out of it, because lawyers don't want the truth. They don't want what's right and wrong. They want the candidate to win it no matter what cost. And hopefully that won't be the case in this hearing.
The 21 members of the steering committee are elected by, some of them are by affiliate groups, but most of them are elected by the state executive, 440 member state executive committee. Do you think that if the steering committee found in your favor that those steering committee members would face a massive backlash from the executive committee come August when we have our summer meeting? And because Tuberville's pretty popular, especially in Republican circles.
Right, he is popular, but if he's not constitutionally able to run and we have a constitutional republic, it's like, guys, come on. This is about, we've gotten to a point in our history where the people have to stand up. We've got to stand up to the leadership and not care what the leadership says. We have to do what's best for Alabama, not what's best for the leadership. That's the problem with the Republican Party. It's got to be brought back. We're the people. We're the party of the people. We're the party about right and wrong. We're the party about the rule of law. If he was untruthful to get on the ballot, that needs to come out, and they should accept it and get behind a candidate that actually wants our rights back. I love our Constitution, and so much of our Constitution is being trampled on. What Section 35 of our Constitution is that the sole and legitimate aim of government is to protect the citizen in life, liberty, and happiness, or life, liberty, and property. And anything other than that is usurpation and oppression. And so much of what our government does is oppression and usurpation. We have to take Alabama back, get a governor in Alabama, and Alabama is going to bring the rights back to the people. We need to be self-sufficient. We need to take our schools back, and we need to take our health care back. And we can't do that if we keep electing establishment candidates. Love the establishment, not at war with them. I'm not coming with my own set of contractors trying to take building permits away, or not building permits, building contracts away, road contracts or bridge contracts. That's not my goal. I just want to bring some rights back to the people. So hopefully they're going to get behind me because they live here too. So we need to get the rights back to the people.
Ken, how much backlash are you experiencing from voters over this?
I mean, I've had very little. There's a few. Most people are extremely positive. There is some, there's some chatter or whatever on some, you're helping Doug Jones, you're destroying the Republican Party. That happened from day one from people within the party that worked for the party, told me that I was destroying the Republican Party and I was working for the Democrats. It's like, it's the first time in Alabama's history, if you're running against an opponent, that you're helping the Democrats and you're hurting the party. Why isn't, the lieutenant governor's race, why aren't all those guys hurting the party and hurting and helping the Democrats? Why just me? Because I'm telling the truth. No one wants, and they don't want that. They want their establishment candidate elected. And that's what's hurting the party. That's what's helping Doug Jones. Stop it. Stay out of primaries. Let the people decide.
Is this going to be a hearing with your witnesses and all that's open to the press, or is this going to be locked behind closed doors where no light gets in?
Email me and I'll text you back in a little while. I'm about to find out, but I don't know that yet. I'm sure it's going to be at Balch Bingham's office, so I don't know how big of facility they have or whatever, if it will hold all the media. So I don't know yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I find out. Should be today.
Kim,
and I want the people there. I want the media there because I want this to be totally transparent and about truth and justice, not about, how expensive or how much money spent on the best law firm in Birmingham, the best law firm in Alabama. And I totally, the lawyers they've got working for them, the ALGOP with Balch Bingham and Tuberville's lawyer, Bert Jordan, brilliant lawyers, great reputations. They're going to destroy me if we do it procedurally. But if we do it for the truth, then I have a chance.
Ken, back in '86 with Baxley Braddock, the party was divided. I mean, it was, less than 1%.
Democrat Party.
Democrat Party.
Right. But their division, when they took Baxley, that did hurt the Democratic Party because everybody voted for Hunt. How do you, with the party unanimously behind Tuberville, how do you think this is helping Doug Jones?
How am I helping Doug Jones? Oh, no,
no. With the party is unanimously behind
85% anyway.
Yeah. How do you think this is helping Doug Jones with this challenge, with Tuberville being on the ballot?
If he's not qualified or constitutionally able to run, that's helping Doug Jones. If he's lying, that's helping Doug Jones. If he's got the party helping him win the nomination, which it appears, it sure felt like that way to me, that's helping Doug Jones. This is all the bad stuff, and this is why so many people don't vote. 85% granted did vote for Tuberville that actually voted, but the vast majority have given up. I want to give the voice back to those people. The ones
so you
that
think
haven't
people are going to come out and vote for? The people who voted for Tuberville are now going to turn around and vote for Doug Jones in the fall?
No, if anything, they may not vote if they're that upset at me. But all I'm trying to do is bring the truth out. I don't understand why that would upset anyone. I think that would be, for a small guy to take on the establishment and the establishment candidate, and and win. I mean, I think that would be it's a David and Goliath fight, and I think people will be inspired. And they'll want a guy that actually wants our rights back, that will work for the people. And I'm not beholden to anyone. I spent $20,000 of my own money and raised $353. The day Tuberville announced he was going to run, they wrote $100,000 checks. And same thing for Doug Jones. Doug Jones is worse. I mean, don't get me wrong. But people are tired of that. They want, and I didn't take any money. When I'm elected, if elected or whatever, if God willing, Lord willing, then I don't owe anybody. I don't have a bunch of people lining up and say, hey, we gave you $100,000. Here's what you're going to do. I'm going to try to help the people. I'm going to try to get the people's rights back, our rights back. So many of our rights are taken away, and I want some back for us, for all of us.
Ken, in most countries where they have an elected form of government, they don't have these primaries like you have in Alabama, where, there's like 20 people running for lieutenant governor and all this. Um, Something like the state executive committee or, a convention or even a smaller group, something more like the steering committee, picks the candidates rather than all of this primary rigmarole. Would that be a better way of doing this, more orderly? Just, hey, yeah, we don't care who's popular. We make the decisions what's best for the party, and these will be your candidates in the fall.
I mean, that's kind of like what's happening this year. I mean, they were involved in the primary this year normally. And I mean, I've been a Republican since I've been 18 years old and heavily involved, past president of the Mid-Alabama Republican Club. We've always prided ourselves, the party, we're not like the Democrats. We don't choose our nominees. We let the people choose the nominees. We stay out of primaries. This year's election wasn't like that. And that's another, and a lot of people don't know. You're talking about 85% of the people. 85% of those voters don't know what's really going on. They just follow what they're told on the news. They're not being told the truth on what's going behind the scenes. They don't, they care about football. They care about putting food on the table. They care about gas prices. They don't really watch closely like we do on what's going on politically. This year was very unusual. Some very unusual things happened. And I think it's more like what you're talking about, where candidates are being selected. I disagree with that. I think the people should decide the candidates of the party, and the parties stay out of it. Democrats don't do that, and up till now, Republicans haven't done it. And unfortunately, this year it sure felt that way to me. I mean, from day one, I was ostracized, and it's kind of like, why? Why me just for, raising my hand and say, hey, I'm about freedoms. I'm about the people. I'm not about what's been going on. I want our freedoms back. I didn't like the shutdowns. I didn't like, the medical industry usurping the power to be able to shut the United States down. I didn't like that. I didn't like forced vaccinations. I didn't like any of it. And so, and now I'm the bad guy. I'm destroying the party. I'm helping the opponent, Doug Jones. It's insane. It's ludicrous.
So Ken, you said you
Christopher,
was going to subpoena. I have one more question. You was going to subpoena Mrs. Tuberville and Tommy Tuberville. Are they required to show up under law? I mean, does this have legal?
I mean, I'll let you know, but supposedly I can subpoena 5 people. And then,
Okay.
like I said, I'll talk to the attorney. And I mean, I hate to actually, get an attorney. I'd rather just go there and hopefully truth will come out. Because like I said, normally when you bring in attorneys, it's no longer about what's right and wrong and what's true or false. It matters about who's got the best attorneys and how much are you willing to spend. And I would rather not bring an attorney, but I may be forced to, just because if they try to do things procedurally to dismiss everything rather than get to the truth. But hopefully Balch Bingham's going to do the right thing. Hopefully Balch Bingham is going to do what's best for the party, and what's best for the party is the truth come out. Before all Doug Jones brings his lawsuit, before the 2 veterans bring their lawsuit against Tommy Tuberville. And that may come in August. And then if he does get elected, then some other ones are going to come.
Ken, that's all I have. Is there something you'd like to say, or does Christopher have a question we haven't already covered?
Yeah, that's all I had.
Guys, I really appreciate it. And I know you guys are the good guys. I mean, you know, you're impartial and get the word out to the folks or whatever. And that's so refreshing these days. And thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you so
Kim.
much for being on.
Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Stop recording. Dang it.